All right, so we need to wrap this up quickly because we're running out of time. Logical solutions banned. What? Drama alert.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely drama alert.
Welcome to ScavTalk, an Escape from Tarkov podcast with a continuing focus on the development of the game, patch note analysis, theory crafting, and general gameplay discussions. My name is Church. I'm one of your hosts. I do video editing for a Tarkov YouTuber named Airwing Marine.
I'm GigaBeef, a Tarkov YouTuber creating videos to hopefully help you guys get better at the game. And welcome back to the show. Mr. Church, as always, I hope you've had a good week. How's it been going for you?
Great, man. It's been going great, actually. Lots of exciting news to talk about this
Ton
week.
of exciting news, definitely. For those who are watching on YouTube or live or whatever, I noticed that Church has got a really it's up in his game with his setup. It's looking pretty nice.
You
It's
know,
decent lighting and that kind of thing. Like appreciate.
I saw you changed locations. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna change locations as well. uh,
Yeah, where you are doesn't matter. It's what's in the background.
it was actually kind of embarrassing looking back because I didn't realize I had a bunch of like I don't know if you can see, but there's all of these mouse tiers are displayed nicely, and beforehand they were just like that second shelf from the top. They were just laid out all in like cables, shells, everything from just where I like was tinkering and like never put everything back away properly. So I was like, yeah, it's about time I
And
did something with that.
it had character. It had character. That's the way you got to put it. But yeah, man, it's been an exciting week. I mean, before we dive into the changes, have you played much this week? Or you just been kind of like looking for the sidelines with the popcorn?
It's just at the size of popcorn. I mean, I played today, before we started this recording, and yeah, it's oh man, yeah. So can we just dive right in because there's so much to talk about here.
Absolutely. Let's
So
let's dive right in.
the big the big news, right? Patch 12.11.5.146, whatever. Okay, optimization patch, right? This was so amazing, dude. When I booted up the game, it took the same amount of time to load the game, I thought, but it felt good. And then the hideout just felt flawless, like the best it's ever been. Okay, so I'm like, okay, this is looking pretty good. I load into the game. Maybe it's a placebo effect, I don't know, but I feel like I'm getting an extra 10 to 20% frames and like performance, which is like, whoa, that's actually really big because Tarkov can be struggling sometimes.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So yeah, I managed to actually fit in like, a couple of raids this week. So um it's interesting because it was kind of like straddling either sides of the patch. I think I had the same experience as you. I mean, the hideout changes. Like this is a funny one, right? Because like this patch was probably the one that people were least hyped about, and it was on like the Keys
Yeah.
roadmap, and he's just like, yeah, we're just making some optimizations and stuff, and they do that in the past, and nothing really changes too much. But some of the things within this one, I think, are really exciting for the future, as well as yeah, just going into the hideout, being able to use it flawlessly. I think it's
Hmm.
because it's slowly been progressively getting worse, and we've kind of got used to it. I posted up like a fix that somebody had put on Reddit, where you put in you press tab, and then you press the button to then send your items to the hideout, and then it works. If it's like all these like little fixes, and to not have to do any of that stuff and just have everything just like go in straight away. I mean, it sounds so basic, but when you're kind of I don't know, like a sort of economic kind of player like me, the hideout's really important, right? And
Yeah.
I use it a lot, and it's just like it feels so good to be able to use it properly. It feels honestly awesome, and just to like even things like flicking around between the traders, like clicking on buttons, like them just responding properly and stuff. It just feels so good. It's like that quality of life thing, which usually like back in the day, I know that things have changed these days, but like back
Hmm.
in the day when StarCraft 2, for example, released, right? And it was that quality that you used to attribute towards like all Blizzard games when they were still standalone. I know it's a bit different these days, but it's just like you'd like navigate through the menus and everything was like super responsive, like max frame rate, like everything
Hmm.
just felt
Hmm.
lovely. It's kind of like along those same lines, it just feels bad when stuff even just like basic stuff isn't working. So to be able to just like navigate through and do all of that is like super, super good. In game, it has felt pretty decent. The one map which still seems a bit of an issue for me is reserve. I don't know, like it's still probably a
Okay.
bit under. Oh, I'm forgetting the word now. I don't think they've
Optimize.
really optimized it very well. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I still think there's some room for improvement on that, but everything else feels great. I mean, I played a bit of woods, and some shoreline, and everything was just like really, really, really nice. It felt great. Everything was just really smooth. No stuttery, weird bugs or anything. So yeah, in general, I would say the overall feeling of things is pretty neat. And I overlooked this patch for the same reasons everyone else did, with
Yeah.
not really being any content. But the value of that just makes it the game so much more enjoyable to play.
Yeah, for sure. Like, one of my biggest gripes with, like, the hideout bug was that you collect, 200 rounds of BP or whatever, and you could not alt tab. You couldn't do anything. You just had to sit there and deal with it. It's just like, oh, it's like, it wouldn't be as bad if I could alt tab. And it's interesting too, you said you played reserve and you felt like the performance was the same. And that was one map I was thinking of I should have tried because I play, like, customs and interchange, and I felt like I noticed that the most on interchange was just, like, the frames felt higher. I didn't actually have the numbers up, but I would like to do some testing because one of the things that I have with my system, I don't know if you have this with your system, but typically I get like sort of like micro stutters at certain points, and I've sort of just assumed, and usually it's tends to be the case, but I don't know. Either way, I sort of assumed that scav spawning in the raid, and that was sort of like my it's like a disadvantage and advantage and all in one thing. So, but I didn't feel any of that in the interchange raids. So I don't know.
That's really good.
I would love to crunch the numbers and check it
Yeah, it'd be
out.
interesting to go and see because, like, I did a bit of because the funny thing actually these days, I don't know whether they've been changing some stuff, but I know when I play offline because I do a reasonable
Hmm.
amount of offline just for like testing and like that kind of stuff,
Yeah,
and some recording of like specific situations that are just kind of annoying. And I know like Factory's always been a high FPS map anyway,
sure.
um, but the same with and usually the same with Labs too. But
Hmm.
both of them, I don't know, something felt just like better, except for when scavs are spawning in, which is something that I guess when you're running it offline, your PC has to deal with the whole thing,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so there are things that are probably unoptimized for that because usually it would be on the server to deal with that kind of
Right.
stuff and not your PC. So that stuff can be unoptimized in the client because in the regular game it's not a problem. Um, so, but other than that, like yeah, it felt good. It's just reserve is the one that's always a bit of a problem for me because it tends to be it's fine. It's honestly not that bad. It's
Hmm.
fine, but I've got a pretty decent rig. Like my CPU is probably not as as good as it could be. Um, I've got Ryzen 5 3700, which is fine, and a 3070 GPU,
Hmm.
and it does drop below 60 sometimes
Yeah,
when I'm ADS'd with the picture-in-picture scopes.
yeah,
It does, and it always has, and it's not unplayable by any means, but like when it's happening because you can feel it in the way
yeah.
the game plays, and that isn't happening on any other map now. And I used to get that on some other maps as well, and especially Woods. Actually, it used to happen on Woods to me,
Hmm.
and it doesn't seem to happen anymore, which is really neat. And it never used to happen on customs, never used to happen on factory. Labs was always good, but I don't really play that much labs. So yeah, I feel like it's good, but it'd be good to have a look at the numbers and see kind of like what the actual FPSs are for different
Yeah,
people's machines and stuff. Because yeah, I was really interested to see what would happen, which I guess we can jump into the next thing, which is like kind of a big change, and it's also to do with optimization. Is the shadows thing for enforced shadows up
yeah.
to how far is it? 500
500
meters is it or something?
meters.
You now cannot opt out of shadows up to 500 meters because I assume BSG assumed it was, or figured that it was too much of an advantage to be able to turn them off because it did make things a lot easier to spot people at
Right.
range. And so now you can't have them off at all. You can still change the different qualities of shadows.
Yeah.
Um, and I think some people were talking about this in the Discord, but the same thing happened to me. I'm not sure whether I replied to them or not, but yeah, when you're looking at like longer distances, there are some weirdnesses with the shadows.
Huh.
And I've got them on like decent quality as well, and they are quite flickery at really shallow angles, far away in areas, especially grassy, like kind of grassy,
Yeah,
leafy,
yeah.
that kind of those kind of textures. It's a little bit like flickery in the distance, but
Hmm.
otherwise it's not been too bad. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. I don't know what's your experience has been with these new shadows.
I forgot about that. I didn't really check, so I need to
Okay, I
investigate.
didn't. Yeah, fine. Because I noticed it specifically on. Then it's because I was playing Woods. It's because I was playing Woods. Um,
Mhm.
so that's kind of why I noticed. Yeah, like the maps I've been playing, it's been. like everybody knows who's been listening routine like regularly that I've been like absolutely insanely busy with like moves and all that kind of stuff. And so
Mhm.
like I've actually probably had some time, and I was like, I just don't feel necessarily like going in and just like rushing in like full Chad factory. You know that
Yeah.
gig is gone, kind of like last wipe. So I was like, but yeah, been running some like chill areas, like go back to some customs, do
Yeah.
like the really familiar stuff. Um, I just wasn't really in the mood for just getting mauled by people.
Yeah.
And so that's why I ended up doing, a few quests on woods and that kind of stuff. But that's probably where you see the most impact from those kind of shadows and things. But yeah, I don't know. It's good. I like it. I do like it. But yeah, there's a ton of other stuff. Was there anything else in like the actual optimizations that you wanted to discuss before we talk about some of the other changes?
I so there was a couple of things that they kind of went under radar. So the AI, have you noticed any AI changes? Because I feel like the AI is, I don't want to say completely different, but something's different, you know?
I don't know whether I'd noticed previously, like whether this was in, but I just hadn't spotted it. But a gripe that I'd always had about AI for the longest of times, and I
Hmm.
haven't really been doing that much. Like I just haven't really hunted scavs that much. I don't know. I've just not been doing those quests or whatever. But like hunting scavs and shooting at them, they will like completely like evacuate the area, leave, and go and find cover. Now I don't know whether they've been doing this for ages, but there does seem to be some changes that have happened to the AI and the way that they respond and the
Yeah.
way that they shoot, the way that they fight you, and they seem a bit, they just seem a bit smarter to me.
Yeah. Yeah. So the line I have written here in the notes that was quoted is increase the complexity of AI driven unit behavior. And yeah, it does seem like they do flanks and or they, if somehow they can inform where you are, they'll just like, in some cases I have one in a factory just like aggressively charge to a certain location. I think he
Mm.
was like
Yeah,
the floor below me, but he just was like sort of like charging at me after, I don't know. It's just the everything. They just feel different. I've even had them like prone drop shot, and they didn't yell at me. Like that was a new one. It's
yeah,
something. It's definitely some changes, and I've always sort of felt like the AI could have been improved upon a bit more. AI is a really hard thing to do well, to be fair. But so this is all good
exactly.
stuff. This is all good stuff.
Yeah, sure. I mean, chat's saying like there's a new AI platform. I'm actually going to just read what it says on the notes, which is
Yeah.
the AI of all Scavs Raiders bosses have been moved to a new technology platform that will allow us to expand and increase the complexity of AI-driven unit behavior and also increase the number of Scavs in a single raid in the future. Now, when I read this, I assumed it just meant, right, we've just ported everything across. Here's the new base. We've kind of like I don't know, streamline stuff. Because the problem is,
Hmm.
right, when you're building code and that kind of thing, stuff just layers on top of itself. So sometimes you
Yeah.
need to rebuild everything from the ground up and put everything in the right place. So I kind of assumed that that's what they'd done. I didn't know that, or
Interesting.
read into it that they'd actually made any actual changes, but it does seem like something has changed when they've done
Yeah.
this, and it seems better. I mean, when they say allow us to expand and increase the complexity of AI-driven unit behavior, maybe that means starting like today, which is cool. And yeah, I think we're seeing it, so it's good. But yeah, to be able to increase the number of scavs in a single raid, that kind of makes sense, right? Because my PC stutters loading them in, but when that's handed off to the server, that work has to be done somewhere. It's not by me, but
Yeah.
if you have too many, we know that that's been an issue in the past. So yeah, I'm excited. It's good. I think this is only can only be a good thing. Like more variety of scout behavior is always good. And it always used to be a huge bugbear of mine that yeah, when you shot at them, they just like wander around and just like not really do much. Whereas now, if you shoot and miss, like they run away. It's actually kind of annoying because they like hide behind rocks and stuff. They like try to predict where you are and like go the other side of
Yeah.
rocks. You have to then go and find them and like go flank right wide and that kind of thing. And I was playing woods is kind of irritating because you have to like go right up to them sometimes to go and find them. So
I
that's
have
good. It's good. It's definitely good for game.
I have to pay much more attention because one of the classic scavs thing is like they hear you and they like path towards you, and like they're not necessarily, they're probably usually they're not looking at you, they're like pathing towards you with their back facing you, and you're just holding the angle, and you're like, okay, pop, you know what I mean? It's just kind of like what.
Yeah,
So I have to see if any of that behavior is still in the game. But
yeah.
the other thing that caught my eye was I'm going to read the line that I took down. Redesign the quest system engine will facilitate the creation of more diverse and engaging quest mechanics in the future. Um, That's also interesting. So they redesigned the quest engine. So did they write this whole new? Did they say, okay, guys, we're gonna take this outdated thing and rewrite and create a whole new chain?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's
I guess they must
seems
have done, right? But there were things that you could see about the old Quest engine, which were like clearly not very good. Like they add a new gun to the game and it has a suppressor on it,
yeah, that's
and then it doesn't
true.
work for the various quests, right? That kind of stuff, just like that indicates that it's not been coded in like a scalable way.
Right.
Um,
It's like they
and
gotta
so
go
I'm
down to the suppressor
yeah,
and then add in
exactly.
quests,
And add
yeah.
it manually. Okay, for
Yeah.
in every quest where there's a suppressor, you have to manually go and add
Yes,
in each
exactly.
box, that kind of thing. And there's ways that you can do that in a better way. And I'm hoping that that's what they mean by this,
Huh.
which yeah would be quite cool. And like the creation of more diverse quests as well is neat. I mean, anyone's guess as to what that actually means, but I'd like there's certain quests which we don't even see in the game right now, which is hold certain areas for certain amounts of time and stuff like that, which we don't have. And I'm sure there's lots of inventive quests that they could come up with, but a lot of the quests kind of are of the same format, and yeah, they're not too bad kind of on their own. Yeah, when you've done them 3, 4, 5 wipes in a row, then they do start to get a bit tedious. But yeah, it'd be nice to get a little more variety, and I think hopefully they'll be able to test that kind of stuff with like daily quests where it matters a little bit less,
Yeah,
or weekly quests, whichever, and pop those in. And I hope that's kind of what they're going for with this.
I think so. I think so. I mean, I think we talked about it in one of our podcasts, but they did do suggestions for they were taking ideas from the community for like daily, weekly, monthly quest.
Mm.
So it's all ramping up, Giga. It's all exciting.
It is. It
Um,
definitely is.
there is I mean, there's so much to talk about. There's the other one, some more quality of life is mechanic check mark for like his gunsmith quest. So like I guess when you build a gun somewhere, there's like a UI that tells you
I
that
guess
hey,
so. Yeah,
this
I was like, well, you just go to his quest, and if it doesn't let you turn it in, then that's that. I don't know. I'm not sure if how much that adds, but yeah, it's nice.
yeah,
It's nice to have. Nice thing to have.
if it was inside the building menu, like the preset menu, then that'd be really nice because then we have to like back, click, click, click. Oh, it's wrong. Back, click, click, click. But yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know where that actually is, to be honest, because I think most of us have, well,
yeah.
most of us have all finished them. So it's you'd have to like start on a new account to go and have a look
Hmm,
at that.
hmm.
Um, I know you were thinking about that, but we can talk about that later. Um, yeah, you can go and test that out. What other, honestly, there were so many things. Oh yes, a very 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 big one. Um, the fire rate cap.
Yeah, we were
Have
just
you
talking
played
about
with it at
this.
all?
I
Did you try it?
just tried a SVD, and it's so hard to remember not to click as fast as you possibly can. It's
Yeah. So
actually
like that's the thing. It it only seems to matter if you click like literally as fast as you can. Um, I'm not much of a semi-auto user really. Like I do sometimes, and I tend to more towards the end of the white when M61's kind of the thing. But otherwise, I'm usually a full auto guy. So
yeah.
I'm not super well versed in in the full on like close combat spam fire. But I did try it out in the hideout. I had a little go with it. You like I can hit the cap if I'm going pretty quick, but I don't think it matters that much. I think there's a lot more outcry about it than I mean maybe this is coming from someone who doesn't use them that often, so maybe I'm
Hmm.
a little wrong on this. I don't know. Maybe people who are using M1A and that kind of stuff all the time, maybe they really do feel it. But for me personally, it does feel like I think it's what 450 RPM or something, which is
450.
like it's pretty quick. Like you're only talking 200 RPM less than the AK, AKM that is.
Yeah,
It's not that slow, but I could hit it in the hideout, but like how accurate you'd be firing it that fast unless you're like top level player. I'm not sure exactly. I mean, some people made the point that you actually make macros more powerful
I've seen
by
this.
putting the cap on like that because you can set your macro to 450 exactly and be firing at like max rate, whereas like somebody who's not using it is like an inherent disadvantage, which I sort of like, yeah, fine, maybe.
Here's
I think like what would be kind of cool is if they did like Oh, I don't know whether that's actually cool or not. I don't know. But you could make it like 480 to like 520 or something, and the delay between you being able to press the next one is like kind of random. You'd never notice as a person who's using it
That's
properly.
interesting.
But if you were like trying to write a script, you wouldn't be able to because it's got like a
Right.
randomized timing on it, which is like very slightly different, but it would like mess up a macro. Or I guess you'd have to put it at the minimum, and then hopefully they wouldn't. I mean, this we'll probably talk about this a bit later, but then they wouldn't popularize what that min is. And so, I mean, I guess you could test it, I guess, and like find out, but it'd be more tricky.
Here's kind of like my thought behind it is, let's say there was no cap on the rate of fires, like it was just however fast you could click, and then someone wrote a macro, and the macro was like 0.001 ms, and it was just like, then the gap between the average fastest clicker versus like the macro, like that's a huge gap, you know what I mean? And then previously we were at like, I think 900 was like the maximum you could fire, I want to say. Um, so that was like kind of a gap. And so what they did is they're just like, okay, we're just gonna lower the gap to like 450. So now it's
Yeah,
like, it's the gap's pretty small. Now you could, of course, you could still make the argument the person's still gonna macro because he can just always have that consistent rate of fire. I'm merely just saying that at least the gap's not massive, you know what I mean? And um yeah, I don't know. It's an unfortunate thing because a lot of like hardware companies directly like kind of like contribute to this problem where they just like build their hardware with like either onboard drivers and whatnot that
yeah,
has like these features. So it's kind of like you can't really detect it because it's not software, it's hardware driven. So it's kind of a issue. And then you have to like sort of gamify. It's like, okay, well, if they're going, like I was thinking, like maybe you say like, okay, 10 times in a row you fire at 0.45 ms, then we know you're macroing, so then something happens, I don't know, but
your gun blows up. No, I don't
yeah, you get a jam guaranteed every time. Like, I
know.
don't know. But then people could eventually they'll figure it out. It's like just another hoop to
Yeah.
jump through. Like it's just a never ending game. But
Exactly. I mean, the bigger question, if we're just like taking a step back, is like, I mean, maybe I'm surprised at people's like willingness to do this stuff. Like, how many people are actually macroing their semi-auto weapons anyway? Like really, is it really that many people? I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe I'm taking maybe I'm giving people too much credit. I don't know, but just like, are that many people like bothered enough to actually macro their semi? Like, I'm not sure. Like, it's just
It
not something that ever even occurred to me. Like, would I even be bothered to do it? Like, is that going to give me that much of an advantage? I just don't know, really.
um yeah, I guess it depends on who you are and your sort of moral
Yeah.
stance on it. You know. I've
Uh,
never liked it. I've always thought it's just, yeah, illegitimate. This is kind of the thing I would say. But um
yeah. Yeah.
if okay, I'll
Yeah.
say this on the subject. There is a video by Chibawaba. Am I saying his name right? And he showed where he took an old build of the game and then a new build and compared the fire rates. And the thing that he pointed out was because of Tarkov's recoil system, since you're not reaching the cap, like the max rate of fire that used to be 900, you're getting more recoil. Because for whatever reason, how Tarkov works, the faster you fire the gun, the quicker you reach that point of your PMC automatically adjusting for recoil. Like, I don't know. There's some I don't
Yeah.
really understand. There's some weird Tarkov code going on. Um, but it is sort of like he showed it with the Sega shotgun, and I was like, wow, that's kind of a big difference. So there's kind of a more you have to fight more recoil, which is like it feels like a double nerf. It's like not only is there less rate of fire, now there's like more recoil.
I
So
can see that. Yeah. I mean, I've never done any testing on it myself, but you can imagine, or I can at least imagine how that system works. If you think of, I mean, I'm just speculating, but if you think of, your gun in the default position, you're just at zero,
right,
and then you start to, as you fire, and if you fire in full auto, then who knows whether this is the way it works or not, actually, but it sounds like it might. So each round that you fire, let's just give like, I don't know, we'll say you've got a recoil. number, I guess,
Mhm.
which builds up each time you fire,
Mhm.
and that's that gives you a number from like 0 to 100 or something. And when you reach 100 recoil, your gun goes from like 100, 99, 98, 99, and then you fire another one and it goes 100, 98, da, 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 da. And that's the point at which you've got this kind of like sustained rate of fire. But going from 0 to 100 isn't just like up, right? It's like it goes up and then you go over the hump once you get to about like 50 or 60 recoil points in this hypothetical scenario. And you get over the hump and then it comes back down to kind of the central area. So what you're talking about is like if every time, because you can't actually fire fast enough, you only go from 0 to 50, which is the vertical up section.
Yes,
You don't end up
yes.
going over the hump down into the second bit. Because like, yeah, if you fire the Vector or an M4 or whatever it is, and you just hold the button down, the gun jumps up, then comes down, and then stabilizes, and is just in that like permanent position until you stop firing now,
Right.
which is like this 100 recoil in this thing. So I can see that actually working. And as you're saying, that if even in semi, because I never actually tested this myself, like even in semi, if you fire fast enough, you can go through that cycle as well and end up into the end zone where no matter how much you fire, the gun just stays in the same place. But if you're limited on fire rate, now you can't get into that end zone because the gun resets too quickly. And so now you're stuck with the terrible burst fire style thing, which is, I think, probably one of the most controversial things about the recoil system is that burst fire is like appalling in Tarkov, which is like just
Yeah.
completely counter to like the way that people fire weapons in the real world. So anyway, that's a
Yeah.
whole that's a whole other thing. But yeah, I can see that happening. I've never tested it myself, but I can see why that would work that way.
Yeah, for sure. I've always sort of noticed it, but I'm kind of torn. Sometimes I do tap for the just the what feels like lower recoil, but then sometimes it's just like it just feels like full autoing is the best. Like, yeah, I'm gonna like maybe I hit the first bullet, maybe the next five miss, but then that gun's gonna settle, and then it's just like he's gonna get beamed eventually. I don't know. We'll have to
Yeah, I
see.
think that's the thing. It's just like when you're like tap firing, you're firing at like a really low fire rate, and so what
Hmm.
you're really doing is you're just ensuring that the target doesn't like leave your sight picture. So you fire
Exactly.
once, and yeah, you get a lot of recoil relative but it's only for one round, and then you wait for the
Right.
sight to come back, and then you fire again and again and again. Whereas if you fired full auto at like distance, yeah, eventually it'll settle. But to begin with, the gun will go way up like this, and then
Yeah.
come back to the middle. By that point, like you've no idea where you're shooting if you're looking over, 200 meters or something. Um, and so that's kind of where I see the difference personally. So yeah, you do have more recoil on that single, but you just can't full auto over massive distances unless you're using the 28 recoil M4, which is a real beauty. And the last thing that I put out, but that was it's fun. It's fun to see those like low levels of recoil still around in the game. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, semi-auto capped and
Yeah.
effectively nerfed, I suppose.
So that was
Effectively nerfed.
the patch that happened. What was that, like Monday or Tuesday, or I can't even remember. Um, but then there was
Hmm.
a hot fix just yesterday, which would be Thursday, where they fixed the TAWs, the KS-23, because that was originally in the notes, like, hey, we
Yeah,
fixed.
they fixed it,
Yeah, and then it's like,
and then
we
yeah,
fixed it again.
yeah,
Which I haven't tested, but we might have to get a little crazy on some kneecaps. You know what I'm saying? Getting the Radicombs of reserve. So the other thing they fixed was the ergonomic stats. So there was someone pointed this out to me. I really wasn't aware of this, but you could go into a raid, have the mag, the 60 round drum mag, out like unloaded from your PMC. So in the menu, you'd have it unloaded. And then when you go on a raid, tap reload, and all of a sudden you have a gun that doesn't have that huge ergo penalty. It's like a way to circumvent the system. And it applied for like
yeah.
silencers, like all these attachments. People could have like pretty high ergo guns, but just at the start of raid, you just had to like, put your gun together, basically.
Yeah, somebody pointed this out to me actually on that video that I just mentioned
Oh
because at
yeah.
the beginning I kind of put together all sorts of like stupid stuff on it to try and get like the highest ergo possible. So we ended up with this like complete mongrel of a weapon, right? Which is, it's like 28 recoil, but like 40 something. I think it was like 42 ergo or something
Hmm.
like that. Like all the stuff on it because it's got like the little like flip up sights and we put like
Yeah.
the 10 round magazine in it and that kind of thing. And someone was just like, yeah, if you stick that 10 round magazine in at the beginning it has +5 ergo. You then take that out and put the 60 in. You're like net positive, like 21 ergonomics or
Oh.
something. Like it's insane because you actually get more ergo from having the mag in for the 10 rounder. So you
Is
can like
that
make it
how it
even, you can boost it
works?
even more. Yeah. But yeah, I was actually thinking
Interesting.
about doing something, maybe not a full thing, but I was thinking about doing something short on it, maybe just on Twitter or whatever. And then like it got changed in the patch.
Okay.
Um, and so that was like even very recently people were talking about it to me as well. And it's not something that like I'd seen it before, but I'd kind
Hmm.
of forgotten about it and not really investigated because ergonomics changes are like I've had a look at some of this stuff previously, and the ergonomics and like weight changes stuff is like notoriously difficult to actually get the information for. At least I find it very difficult to do because you have to go into raid with the stuff, change the stuff, but account for the
Right.
fact that the gun weighs more as well. So it's like, oh, but is it this? Is it that? Is it the other? Like it's really difficult. And then you've
Yeah.
got them all like because to actually measure the ergonomic change on ADS, because that's really the only thing that matters, right? Like, yeah, you've got a bit of like sound and other stuff, but like the ADS speed is mostly what people are talking about with respect to ergonomics. It's like,
Hmm.
well, how much does this actually matter? And now I'm there in Premiere Pro going frame by frame,
Yeah.
counting the frames, and like dividing it by 60 because it's like 60 hertz and all this stuff. Like honestly, it takes forever
Hmm.
to look at that stuff. So which is probably why I never really bothered. But yeah, it's good that it's been fixed because if that was a thing, as you say, you go into the raid, you got some like shell of a gun with like a 10 round mag, some horrible stock on it, but you just insure it and you throw it in the bush at the start and put your proper stock on, click on the suppressor, 60 rounder goes in, all this, and you've got like the equivalent of like an 80 ergo gun with like, minus 40 worth of ergo attached to it. You're just running around like Rambo. So I'm glad they fixed that
Yeah.
before either I sent myself crazy trying to look at all the changes and or people using it too much.
Yeah. Um, what else? What else? What else? Anything else?
Yeah, so some other bits and pieces about oh, they added the ability to change weapon fire modes by rotation. So if you've got like a gun with like single and burst and full, you can now go the other way. So when you load into raid with the vector, you don't have to go from single to burst, then to auto. You can just go like the other way around the loop and go like single to auto straight away, and then burst and then single. Does that really matter? No, not really. But I've seen a few posts on this on Twitter, and it's something that I've spoken about in my hotkeys video, and this is actually important, is that if you keep the keys the way they are now, your change fire mode will be delayed. I know like Velian and a few other people put this out because I think one's like, is it like B the
It's
default? I think it's B
B.
default. And I think like either Alt B or Control B is like
Yeah.
to go the other way. The problem with any of these times you've got like keys that are like mapped twice or one with a modifier on it. It's like you have to the game has to like wait to decide, or is it like double B or something? I can't remember. But basically, if you've got like a key that's mapped twice, especially the ones that are double presses, maybe it's a double press
It's the
one.
double press, I
Um,
think.
yeah, if you got a double press on, the game has to wait to see whether you pressed it twice
Right.
because how would it know whether you want to go forwards or backwards if it's one's single B and one's double B without waiting to know whether you've done double B before? And I talked about this in the hotkeys video because of the reload and having reload and fast reload, one on
Yeah.
R and one on double R, means that your normal reload is always slow because it's waiting for that second R. So
Hmm.
you either like rebind it away or like make it a completely different key. So if you want to keep it, you can just put it as a different key or just completely unbind it like I did because I just don't think it makes a huge difference. But that's the same thing for this because they've added this extra option. Everyone's like fire mode change button is now slow because it's waiting for this like double press. So I just thought that was actually more interesting for people to note than the change itself. Because if
Yeah.
people are thinking that their fire mode thing is now lagging, that's the reason.
On the note of keybinds and such and reloads, I can't remember who, but someone made a good point in a video somewhere, and I set my tactical reload, I guess emergency reload to R, and then I have a modifier key and R for like the regular reload. And the thought process is like, if you ever panic and reload, you're getting the fastest reload possible.
Yeah.
Um, just a little trick for you fellow gamers out there.
Yeah. See, because that makes complete sense.
Hmm.
That makes total sense. And when I did some various bits of testing, it seems to depend on the weapon actually. And I've not done this like in depth.
I thought so as
It does
well.
seem to
Yeah.
depend on the weapon. But something like the MDR, like the difference between the the fast reload and the normal reload was like so small
Mm.
that I just maybe it makes a difference on some guns. I don't know, but to me, it just didn't even seem worth like bothering with. And like the number of times when I'm in like a crazy panic situation where I have to press like normal R and dropping the mag on the floor, like I hate going to pick the mag up. Like honestly, it
Yeah.
sucks. And the number of times they just like drop underneath like newspapers and stuff in factory, and you can't find them and that kind of thing. Um, it's like I just don't want to have to deal with that, you know. And
Yeah,
like to have
yeah.
it on a modifier key for me, like 99.9% of the time, for like the 0.01% of the time where I need to like press R like quickly because I'm going to get like 10 milliseconds extra speed or something. I don't know, it just didn't seem worth it. Like it makes total sense what you're saying, and like different people have different opinions on it. Because I said something similar in my thing, and I had some people in the comments being like, "Well, I do this and it's really helped me, in certain situations, like I won fights I shouldn't have and stuff." And I'm like, okay, fair enough, but it's just like I think it depends. Yeah, maybe I need to look at it a little bit more actually, and like see which weapons have a faster reload than others, if they do or don't, because I don't actually know for sure. But yeah, with the MDR, which is what I was using for that testing, just because I kind of had it to hand, it didn't make really any difference. It was like very limited. It was like 15 milliseconds or something, which was like it's like so small. I didn't feel like it was worth like crawling around trying to find magazines. And I'm not a prolific mag bringer either. Which I think might be part of it. Like if you're a guy that brings in like 6 mags of stuff, then like it matters a bit less. But I'm kind of just like ooh, shall I bring a fourth mag? Ooh, I don't know, kind of player. And so it's like, to lose one of those on the floor, I'm like, oh god, now I've only got 2 mags. Now I really am shafted. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I have like a similar thing where the other day I was like, I'm gonna change all my keybinds, and I was like, my thought process was I'm gonna keep all the aiming related stuff to the mouse and all the movement and operations on the keyboard. Um, so I was like, but I need a modifier key that can that I can do that's not control and alt, because it's just like
Yeah.
sometimes those are not. So I did space, and I was like, well, now I got to change space to jump to something rather. And I was like, well, I'll change control, and so I went down this rabbit hole, and I just kept forgetting what my jump button was, dude. It was just like, and then I was like, oh god, how do I change my scope again? It's
Yeah.
not my mouse side button. What is it? It's just like, and I was just like, you know what? I'm going back to default and I'm changing it back to, because it's just like the learning curve. Like maybe if I stuck with it, maybe it would have been like some new optimal supreme setup, but just that learning curve, that hurdle, I was just like, oh, I can't be bothered. This was such a bad idea, Church. Why did you do this to yourself?
It's hard. It is hard changing those kind of things. Like I've changed a couple of things when they were like really annoying me, but yeah, changing like so much about the setup. Like I tried the alternate like Q and E lean keys so
Hmm.
that E leans left and Q leans
Yeah,
right, and like I tried that for
I
a bit
tried it
and
too.
it just didn't really
It's
work
just
for
like,
me. Like it was okay. I was like, maybe if I stick with it, maybe it'll be good. But like, I don't know. Yeah,
yeah,
it's tricky. Like in some ways, it's like even if your setup's like slightly suboptimal, unless you're really like dedicated to like making that work over a couple of weeks or something,
hmm,
then it's just like just may not be worth it. Right? You're gonna play
yeah,
better with the keys that you know. I think partly it's like it's not even just like the Tarkov keys. It's like my keys originally are based on like the PUBG keys, which were
mm,
based on Call of Duty, like Modern Warfare 1 keys and stuff. So it's like,
yeah.
oh, well, I've gone from that to PUBG. Oh, well, I'll have to add like, item and this and that and whatever. And then like go to Tarkov, oh, now I've got to add the scroll wheel and all sorts of stuff to make all this stuff work. But like the fundamental base of it is like something else. I've been using it for years and years and years and years. And once you've created that like rut in your brain,
I
that
know, man.
groove,
Yeah,
very hard to like move
so
that off. I
hard.
think it gets harder and harder. And as you get older, as you start getting older and older, it gets harder and harder to change.
Yeah.
It's you see all the Zoomers going around and they can have whatever keys they like, but it's not for the likes of us.
Feels old, man.
Feels old, indeed.
So
Anyway,
now that we're done talking
that
about
being
keybinds,
said, exactly. Was there anything else exciting from the patches, or should we move on?
I'm sure we're missing something, but yeah, it is what it is.
They stopped Tagilla getting stuck in the toilet. That's important. I absolutely adored that change.
I had to look up what a cistern was because I was like, I think it's like a big cylinder, cauldron where they pour like chemicals in a factory. But I was like, I don't know. Like, what was he getting stuck inside of? And of course, it basically was that. That is
Madness.
hilarious, and that explains why people were like, "God, I played 20 factory raids and I can't find Killa for the or Tagilla for this stupid quest I won." I was like, now that makes sense.
Oh, he was on the toilet. It makes sense now. Okay, fine. Yes, that was probably the best for me. That was probably the best update, the best bug fix. I just love it. So there's always something funny. I don't know. There's always
Yeah.
seems to be something funny in there. Um, right.
So
We had a couple of
yeah, go ahead.
things that have happened this week. I don't know, like where I don't know where you want to start. I don't know. Maybe we talk about Twitch Rivals quickly.
Yeah, let's do it.
Did you see any of Rivals? Did you watch any of it? Like I
Nah,
find it a bit
I was
tricky to
asleep.
watch all of it in any way. But I did watch some. I watched some of the EU games.
Okay.
Like I didn't watch like all of it. I could probably watch like the sort of middle towards getting towards kind of like the semis and stuff. I didn't watch any of the finals, so I just like generally watch the format because Twitch Rivals is something that I normally, and we've spoken about this previously. I normally find it like quite difficult to watch, but actually, you know what? This one, like last time, it was better, and this one was actually pretty enjoyable. Honestly, like it was good, and the things that they have to do are like fairly team orientated, and it's like they had like good PvP. Like it was actually pretty decent, as far as I saw.
So
But
what was so they did the bingo thing again, right?
yeah.
But did they
Yeah,
change
so you've got
it
to do.
at the finals? Was it something different at the finals?
That's a good question because I didn't actually see the final.
Okay.
The one that I did see that I really, really enjoyed was it was the special kind of like show match or whichever it was, which was
Mm.
basically like a big free for all. And I watched the EU one,
Hmm.
which was on Shoreline, and that was actually like that was super, super fun because everyone was playing solo. Like you could have whatever kit you wanted, and that was just like it was like a one-off kind of thing, which was I think it was like 2K for the winner. Um, it was a slight shame about the rule set because they didn't make it quite clear enough, I don't think, to like the participants exactly like how you win, because it was kind of like, well, the last person to extract kind of thing, which sort of implied that or the
Right.
last person alive. But it was like, well, if there's two people, then what happens? Because if you both go MIA, then what does that mean? Because Hayes basically was like dominating it, and then he sprinted down the pier and got shot by the winner because the winner was like um was just chilling by the
Yeah.
by the pier because only the
I mean
pier was
it
open.
yeah, I mean that seems like
Um,
the optimal strategy, right?
but then what if they both did that? I don't know. I wasn't sure about that, to be honest, and I think
Like
it's a little bit of a shame.
what if they both extract camped, you're saying? Or
No, if
what
it, yeah, and they'd both gone MIA because that's the deal with it. Like
yeah, there's like
it was like the last person alive kind of thing.
what if they're
So I don't
both
know what would have
yeah.
happened. Yeah, if they both just like neither one had moved or something. I'm not really sure, but like other than that, like with the win conditions being a bit strange, like everybody kind of honed in on the pier, and the fights up until that point were actually really, really cool. Like it was great. There was one like Tiggs was fighting. Oh, I can't remember who it was now actually, but there was like some really, really good battles between a lot of the guys. Like people getting like shots done like tiny cracks, like between little trucks and stuff. Like it was sick. It was actually really decent, and there was some like smoke usage and stuff. Like it was fun. It was really good fun to watch.
That's cool.
Unfortunately, I didn't see any of the US one. Um, but yeah, I like the format. It's not. It's one of those ones where like I find that the experience of watching it is more enjoyable than like I'm not like kind of desperate to like see who wins overall kind of thing. I just like enjoy the process. I don't know if that
Yeah.
makes
No,
that makes
I
sense.
get
Like I
you.
enjoy watching the process of it more than like going, oh, who's going to win this and who's going to win the whole thing, because like it's very like raid based as well. Like watching guys try to extract out with the tank battery is just always hilarious. There's 5 minutes left and they're like passing it from person to person. You're like super vulnerable, and I love that. I think it's really good. You get a ton of points for it, but it's really hard to do, and you make yourself really vulnerable to other squads who can come pick you off. It's like that kind of thing is what makes it like interesting. So I enjoyed the bit that I watched. Absolutely.
Yeah. I have to check it out. I don't know. I just got burned from Rivals back in Apex days. It was just like it's here's how I see it. It's not the upper echelon of there's always some like scuff rule sets. You know what I mean? It's like it's just always I shouldn't say every rivals, but the rivals that I've seen, I just got really turned off by it. It just seems more, you know, like you said, it's more like for the entertainment value, the show of it. It's not necessarily like the most competitive rule set, and who's the god gamer of them all. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I think it's hard within EFT as well because you have to really
yeah,
carefully design the rules. Like it's not an easy game to make a rule set for,
for sure.
because of the things we were talking about, right? It's like, well, how do you stop people from just being like? Because I did see that criticism that basically it turned into like Twitch extract campers, because if you like set the extracts and that kind of thing, and it's like, well, last person to extract is, and there was a lot of like I'm not, yeah, I don't know. Like, last person to extract thing means that you get like a lot of MIAs because people are leaving it right to the last minute, especially when like the maps that when they're playing reserve, for example, and one person's at D2 and the other guy's like backpack extract, and then you end up with like stupid stuff like who again, who was this? I'm forgetting all of who was in it. I think, was it like hay bales? I can't remember. But somebody went MIA literally because like their game timer was like wrong. And their teammate was like, "Get over
Uh,
here right now! Like you're gonna be out of time." And they're like, "No, I got 15 seconds. It's fine." And like she walked in, and it was just like 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Boom, you're gone. MIA because like the timer was like desynced, and it's like that kind of sucks. And so to like play around and be like, well, you have to be the last person to extract, and there's like two people at two different extracts trying to like game it so that it like goes out at like oh. It's like, is that great gameplay? I'm not sure. So yeah, being able to like finesse the rule sets a bit so that they are a bit more sensible, I think would be good. But like, yeah, overall, it was like actually good fun. Which I have to say, like the original Rivals that I watched, like wasn't fun to watch, whereas it is actually, at least it is entertaining. Like it makes for some interesting plays and stuff.
so you're
So
saying this one was an improvement over the last one? Is that
I
what you
think
were
so.
saying? Okay, that's
I,
good.
th- I think so. I think so.
So just
Yeah.
just to clarify one more time, you could win by being the last one to extract, but you could also win by being the last one to go MIA.
Well, okay. Well, it depended, right? Because it was part of the bingo cards thing was like last to extract was like one of the quests. So
Okay.
we're kind of confusing like the show match, which was like the free for all one, which had that one's probably had the most scuff rules because like the bingo cards thing is like, yeah, last person to extract in a raid as a point on the card is like one thing, but when the rule sets like last person to extract or last person to be alive as the thing in the free for all, it's like that's tricky because I don't know, yeah, what happens in a
Yeah.
situation where two people just camp until and they both go MIA? Do they both lose? I don't know. I'm not sure. Like who wins then? I'm not sure. It's like you end up with these like weird stalemate situations which you don't really want to have happen. Um, and like setting
Right.
the extract to the peer is like kind of silly because it's like probably the single most open extract in the entire game. And so,
Yeah.
if anyone else is alive anyway by default, you die if you try to take it. So, so it's like you kind of needed to kill everybody else anyway. At which point you win, kind of anyway, because of the way the rules are set up. I don't know. I don't want to go on about it too long, but
Okay.
it's just again the thing of just incentivizing players to do the things you want them to do.
Yeah,
You'll emergent
yeah.
behavior will appear, and I think the problem is that like also because the rules. I mean, it wasn't like Twitch Rivals was announced like 5 days before it started or something, so people didn't really have time. No one even knew if they were playing, and like
Mhm.
I don't know how early the guys get the rule sets, but I go feel for a player like Hayes who's like trying to play the game like the way it's supposed to be played, kind of thing. Even though the rule set maybe says, "Oh well, that you weren't the last to be alive," and the person who just sat there was just ready to go MIA, like one because they shot you trying to go to the extract. Like you
But
got to feel bad for him because it's like
would he even need to shoot him? Could you not just, like, hypothetically stay, like, just high in a bush till the end of the raid timer and win that way?
I think last to extract superseded like last one alive. So if you
Okay.
got to peer and extracted, then and you were the last person to extract, then you won, I
Okay.
believe.
Okay.
And so, but that was the issue. Like it was so you couldn't really extract if anyone else was in the raid because they would be there and you would die.
Yeah, so it's, like, heavily if you got the pure spawn, then you were kinda, like, in a good position, I guess?
I think they deleted that one. There was like
Okay.
they
Interesting.
yeah they like spawned in like around the edge, like away
Yeah.
from that. But even still, I don't. I think somebody did get, maybe not the one that was like right up there. I think maybe they did get rid of that one. There was somebody who spawned right by like CCP checkpoint, like a little bit
Hmm.
further along, and that was probably the closest one. But it's still like a good run over to Pier. But anyway, yeah, it was entertaining, but
That's
as
good.
usual, maybe not always the best thought through rule set, which is
Yeah.
tricky in EFT. Yeah, indeed, indeed.
I did want to jump back quickly and talk about the roadmap, because there was one thing that I forgot to put in the notes, was that after Twitch Rivals, I guess it was the NA region, Nikita spoke on the show, the Twitch Rivals broadcast, and said that they were considering pushing out Lighthouse early, um, just to have content for the people that demand the content, you know.
Yeah,
Um, and so that kind of puts us in an interesting timeline because here we got, so right now I believe we are currently on patch 12.11.5. Yes, which is the optimization patch. Then after that is going to be patch 12.11.6, which is the Unity 2019 migration and DLSS support, which that's pretty huge. And then after that was supposed to be the patch 12.12, Lighthouse location, daily quest, inertia, VoIP, weapon malfunctions, iteration, new weapons, and other stuffs. So, where does that put us on timeline? Are we just going to get a Lighthouse in between patch with the Unity migration? Is it going to be a Lighthouse patch? I don't know. What are your thoughts?
yeah. I mean, I saw that on Twitter, and I commented on there already, basically saying if it's ready and if he wants to put it out, then fine, put it out. But I just
Yeah,
really, really, really
don't want
hope.
it to be rushed.
I don't want it to be rushed. I don't want it to come out when it's not ready. Like, it will make it 10 times worse if they release it and it's buggy and it doesn't work properly, it's unoptimized. People are getting like
Yeah.
45 frames. Like, the community will get more annoyed for that because, like, the people who are demanding content, right? Who I don't really think you should pander to anyway. People
Hmm.
who are demanding content will be annoyed if it isn't correct.
Yeah.
And then the people who aren't demanding content will also be like, why have you done this?
Yeah.
So
It's like a lose
I don't know.
lose.
I just feel like there's a lot of downside, and it kind of goes against like the way that they said that they want to build it too, right? I don't know. Like, if it's the right thing and if Nikita thinks it's the right time to push it out, he was only waiting because he wanted to bundle everything together in the big 12.12, but he thinks actually, 12.12 can stand on its own with all the stuff because it's got a lot of stuff in it, right? Even without
Yeah.
Lighthouse, it's a big patch.
Yeah.
So if he
It
thinks, well,
is.
look, it can stand on its own and we can just have like a map patch that's slightly earlier, then fine. And if it's finished, then fine. If it's they didn't really think about making two, because I know they were going to split it up like and have expansions like they do with the other maps. So if they've got it into the stage where stage one is ready and they're not going to make any amends to it until whatever expansion that they have planned for it, then go for it. Be my guess, go for it. I don't know if Lighthouse on its own would be enough to kind of like give the game a huge like adrenaline shot. I'm not sure. I don't know if that's really
Yeah.
his plan either. I'm not sure exactly what he intends to do with it because people who are playing already will play it and like it. Some people, like, to be fair, a lot of, people will come back and check it out. I'm sure people who are general EFT fans but are kind of fallen out of love with it and are
Yeah.
playing other stuff will probably come and check it out. But none of the core gameplay has really changed, so people will check out the map for a bit and then go back to whatever it was that they were doing. I don't think it's going to keep people long term. Well, I say long term. I don't think it'll keep people for months because they'll
Yeah.
still be playing on their same accounts, using the same weapons, fighting against the same people with the same gear, with the same problems as the reason why they left in the first place because of lack of things to do and blah blah blah. So, like, a new map, yeah, will keep people entertained for a couple of weeks maybe, and then it'll
Exactly.
kind of go back to the way it was. So I don't think, like, for the people that are demanding the content, I don't think it's going to fix that. I think it is nice and great if they can release it early, but I don't think it's going to fix the problem that he's stated. Um, but if it's ready, then fine. Yeah, if it's ready, fine. I have no real issue with it, so long as it's done in a way that isn't just for pandering. It isn't just to try and get these people to be happy, because I think there's a lot more downside than upside. The map may be great and released, and everyone's super happy about it, but like you could end up annoying people who have like goodwill for PSG as well by going, well, you always tell us that this is the way you want to build the game and all this kind of stuff. And then like a ton of people have gone cried salty tears all over Reddit and Twitter. And then you've gone and done something to appease these people, and it's not ready. And now you've annoyed people who actually do back the game as well at the same time. So I don't know. I think they just have to be a bit careful.
I'm in agreement with you there, and I think after hearing your argument, I much more on the side of let's just wait till everything's ready because I feel like if they do the typical BSG thing where they wipe the game and then there's new content, they'll do like drops on Twitch and it just drives a lot of sales and a lot of numbers and whatnot and a lot of players. And the thing that I was really surprised about is how much of a spike we got from the Woods expansion. And
Mm.
there was like some guns and stuff, but it seemed like there was a lot of players, and I think we broke records on both the Twitch metrics and the concurrent players from BSG. I want to say, might be wrong about that, but either way, it was nice because
I
I
kind of
could,
forgotten about that. Yeah.
yeah, which was surprising because it's just a Woods expansion, And I mean, I'm trying to think. There was like the Vector. There wasn't Scav Karma. I mean, there was like the new changes to the USEC and Bear loadouts. I'm trying to think. There was some other quality of life stuff, but and it's hard. Everything blends in, but it was nice because I was like, man, I could like play the wipe and min max, or I could go to woods and explore the new map. And it was sort of nice to have like all this extra. Like there was just so many things to do. You know what I mean? It's not just like if they release a map, like you were saying, it's just going to be a map. Even if it has 4 bosses and it's got some new cool features, like I don't know. I feel like it'd be fun for a couple of weeks, but like if you add the wipe, if you add the new map, if you add the new features, the new weapon jams, the daily quest, inertia, VoIP, like oh my god, there's so much content in there. Like holy moly, dude. Like yeah, there's so much in there. I would hate just to see yeah, like you're saying, that sort of like giving in, so to speak. But maybe he's got a grand plan. We just have to
Maybe, yeah, maybe he does. I like the only thing that I feel about it right now is that kind of like a bit like what we talked with Dan about last time is that yeah, if viewership is low and people are playing other games and that kind
Mhm.
of thing, you almost like it's almost an opportunity to
That's yeah.
wait and do this and just do everything right so that when you do actually bring out the content with a capital C,
Yeah.
it's like a big bang, a big push, right? Revitalize everything.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, that's the thing. I just don't feel that like pushing a map is going to solve all these issues. And if they are worried about the viewership, I don't know. It's probably something that they do look at. I'm sure.
Sure.
Um, I don't know if that's really like the right solution. It's almost, as I say, like an opportunity for you to go right. Well, a lot of people are doing other stuff, and yeah, people are like crying about the game and whatever. But the people will come back when the content is created, like for sure. And so let's just use this time to do everything that we need to do to get everything prepared, make sure everything's right, it does go through, rather than just trying to push something out that's gonna give us a couple of weeks of I don't know, maybe breathing room in terms of content or whatever. Like it's funny that you mentioned the woods thing actually, because I don't know whether like I don't know like how I actually cannot remember like how much hype like reserve had about it versus like the woods expansion, for example, because the funny it's like different, isn't it, when you've got a new map completely. It's like everyone's excited but it's brand new, but there's
Mhm.
something about like the woods expansion where everybody's played woods, and so you're like, well, I'm interested to see what happened, and it's like it's familiar but also unfamiliar because there's like a whole new section,
Yeah.
whereas like a completely new map is like I know that I because it was released kind of like quite early on in one of the wipe cycles. I think was it like completely on wipe. I'm actually really bad at remembering like what happened when. It's like my brain just doesn't compute like dates in the past with like
I
events. I find
know.
it really hard to remember. I'm honestly like genuinely terrible at that. It's like one of the weakest parts of like my like the whole like of my sort of general like ability to do this stuff. But I remember like at the time, I think I was doing other stuff, and it was either like on wipe or it was like early on in one of the wipes, and I just didn't play it. for ages. Like I was really, really, really late to reserve, and I let other people go and find all the stuff and blah blah. And then I learned it like towards the end of the wipe, um, like months after it had been put into place. And I don't know whether obviously a lot of people go and check it out, but it's interesting how you can almost imagine like customs expansion gets huge interest because everybody's played that map. But is everybody going to go and like jump
Yeah, I
to
could see
a
that.
new map? Yeah, I don't really know.
I don't
I don't
know
know.
either. I want to
I think like
say
yeah.
there was like
Sorry, go ahead.
some I don't know. I feel like I can't say for sure, but I want to say like someone like a Pastilli was doing some big subathon event. Was it during the woods time? I don't know. But I yeah, I've looked at the metrics and that was like I think one of the highest peaks, which was surprising. But yeah, it's all interesting to say the least.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
so we're running out of time here. Was there anything you want to discuss before we get to this other topic that I have here?
The only other two, like I'll just try and run through them quickly.
Yeah, go
The
for
only
it.
other two things was firstly is what is it, Battle State, like 7 year birthday, I think. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
should go and collect their goods from Prapor. He's given out a weapons case, ammo case, two moonshines, and an Alyonka, which is super nice. Everybody, I'm pretty sure everybody gets it. So, you know,
Yeah, as far
restart
as
your
I
game,
know.
open your game, whatever you need to do, open it up. You should have a gift in there from Mr. Prap. Um, and then the other thing, which is like tangential, but I think it's interesting for kind of the Tarkov community, is like that more information about like the hazard zone in Battlefield, which was released, which I've kind of been like loosely following. Like I didn't play any of the Battlefield beta, but I've seen enough people play it and like some of their thoughts on it. And you know, as some people have posted, like it's not a Tarkov killer by any means. It's like when they say influenced by Tarkov, it's almost like more. It's more some other games, I think, with like Tarkov-esque mechanics in some sense. Like, you extract and have to
Yeah.
collect some stuff. But like I don't think it's really a lot like Tarkov at all. However, I do find it's quite interesting. There's like some bits about it that seem kind of neat and I quite enjoy having a go at, which is the fact that like each round is only like 12 minutes or something,
Oh
which is
wow.
pretty nice. Like it's really, really short.
Yeah.
It almost seems like, Apex had a baby with like, I don't know, the shadow of EFT or something.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know. So it sounds kind of cool. It's like, you know, tournament style, like Apexy style, like Tarkov. You go in, you collect these like drives out of these satellites, and then you extract, and then using that, you can then buy stuff with the currency that you make from like selling these like drives, and you can then go back in with that gear, which is kind of interesting. It does seem that like if you die or like you lose in a particular round, then like it does get reset. So I don't know. It'll be fascinating to see. But it sounds kind of cool, and it looks like I think a lot of people don't, have had issues with like the Battlefield as it is as its main game. I think
Mm-hmm.
this could actually be quite decent because that kind of game is like more in keeping with like the new style that they're going for. I think personally because you're like, well, this isn't really Battlefield. This is like something else completely different. This is Hazard Zone. It's like a special game mode kind of thing, and it could end up actually being like quite big. I think. Especially if it's like
It
really
could.
fast paced, like super high action. Because like one of the issues with the BRs in general is and I got kind of tired of this in PUBG is the beginning, the go in, you have nothing, you find the stuff, and sometimes you get into your first engagement and you die, and then you go back and you queue and you fly in and you go down and you find the stuff, and it's like 10, 15 minutes before you really start getting into it. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
something that's like super high octane, like right from the beginning, with like windowed extractions, like it could be really, really fun with less downtime. So if you just want to go and like frag, then it could be like a neat way of doing that with a bit more like tactics and strategy than having to like play out like a full BR round. Like 12 minutes is really short. So I think that could be kind of cool. It's one to watch out, and I don't know how much I'll be playing it, but I'm intrigued at least to like give it a go.
Yeah, I'm same with you. I want to try it out myself. I mean, I think I've heard it's coming out free to play, like just the Hazard Zone. I don't know if that's the case or not, but that's what I've heard. And I've heard it compared to Hunt Showdown, which I have not tried. That's on my to game list. But yeah, I mean, like you're saying, I mean, if it's gonna be like a very streamlined, you know, casual esque
Mm.
mode, Tarkov like mode, then that sounds like I mean, if it's fun, it's fun. You know, I mean, if I enjoy it, I'm
Yeah.
gonna enjoy it. So, yeah, I think it's cool. I mean, that that kind of brings me on to another topic. Is have you seen any of the EFT clones, the mobile clones?
I have seen one of them. There was which was it like a one of the 10-cent clones or something? Like
Yeah,
it didn't look that bad,
I
but it
surprisingly,
also it surprisingly didn't look that bad, but it also wasn't that great. I think is the way that I describe it.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
it looked like for what it is, it looked actually pretty decent. Um, would I play it? Probably not. But
no,
but that's the thing. Like it looked okay. You know, it looked okay.
yeah. If it was out in like 2010, you know, or
Mm,
like, or you know, yeah, 2010 probably, 2011. I'd probably be playing it, but on the computer more
yeah.
likely. I don't know. I'm like, I'm really tempted to try it because it's like you're saying, it's right on that line of like, it's kind of impressive, but it's also kind of bad. So yeah. Anyways, I thought that was interesting and fun, and it's sort of like
What's that called? Do you remember what its name was? I can't remember what it's called.
I can't remember what it's called either. I had to look through this. Someone posted in the Discord, and I had to look
Yeah, it did.
there.
I'll have to like I want to see if I can just like find it. Like
Yeah, I'm sure you can
right.
easily.
What is it even? What is it even called? Another escape from Tarkov mobile clone. Tarkov mobile clone. I'm sure it'll come if I just type this in, surely.
But I wanted to say it's actually
Hmm.
pretty impressive that there's these clones popping up, and like it's like BSG's impact on the gaming world is like we're starting to see this sort of like trending shift. I mean, you could argue like, oh no, I think even sorry, even Hunt Showdown said they were inspired by EFT's design. So it's like it's pretty impressive what BSG has accomplished so far, and how we're sort of seeing this like trending, possibly this new genre. Like people, maybe you know, we'll see more of this type of gameplay being introduced. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I can't find the name of this silly thing, but I do think it is kind of interesting, and I don't think there's going to be any games that are that are like Tarkov in that
Yeah,
sense. But I do think that it is inspiring other ideas, and the one main idea that I think it's bringing in is the idea of because the thing is right, like the battle royale genre is very round based, right? You start at zero, you end the thing, and that's it. It's finished. And Tarkov's brought in this idea of like a sort of general, more like RPG type thing. It doesn't need to be like full blown RPG, but just something where you get to the end, and then there's a meta game outside the game. You know what I mean? It's like playing like Rome Total War or something, right? Where you've got like here's the battle, and you fight the battle, but then once you fight the battle, you're back to like your empire or
mhm,
whatever. And people like that's like what makes Tarkov like so super addictive is that sense of progression, right? It's like the
yeah,
slow sense of progression building up whatever it is, right? Your hideout, your character, your skills, your items, you know, you're making your better kits and stuff. So that's kind of like I can see why that concept is really tantalizing to game developers because it's sort of like honing in on the addiction that people have to these
yeah,
games, like the tendency that people have to like keep them playing. And it's like, well, you're not just playing to play, like when you're playing Warzone or PUBG or Fortnite or whatever, but you're playing because like when you get to the end, there's like each time you incrementally slowly get better stuff, and then there's also the like risk reward like gambling element of like
yeah,
the loss as well, and you've never really had that in such a stark format as EFT. So I think like that's the concept that's being lifted. You don't need to take like the full gun modding thing, like the fully realistic
right, right,
simulator type stuff. You don't need to take all of that. And honestly, I don't think anybody else would bother. Like it's very lengthy and complicated and
mhm,
like problematic to get all these licenses and stuff. Like no one else bothers. Most people just like read. That's why Tarkov I think will always be unique in that sense because
hmm,
most people just rename the guns, right? They have like the M5 A16 or whatever, and it's just
yeah,
like you know what it is. Everyone knows what it is, but like they
right,
just can't be
right,
bothered to get the licenses. They'll make some small modifications and just put them in the game. It's fine. But like no game is going to like simulate, real life weaponry like EFT, I don't think anyone else would bother going to the trouble. I do think it also is quite helpful for them that they sit in a particular jurisdiction that I don't think really cares so much about that too. I'm sure that helps. Like an
Yeah,
American company, I
I'm
don't think
sure
could
that
do what
helps.
they do. So I'm sure it helps. Like I know that they have some licenses and that kind of stuff, but
Hmm.
I'm sure it helps. So yeah, that's the thing. That's really it. I think it's like those concepts that are being lifted, partly because it's interesting actually, partly because it's like good gameplay and addictive gameplay, but also because like that also is good for like the economics of the developers, right? If you can take that addictive quality of the game, you can see why that'd be quite appealing to, many a unscrupulous AAA dev studio who may or may not use microtransactions
Hmm.
alongside it for, scratching the little bit of the lizard brain and getting people's dopamine kick. It's just, you know what I'm saying? It's just
Yeah,
you can see how that might be used and slash or abused um, by other development houses. So we'll see. We'll see.
yeah. I do want to wrap up this topic, but I just want to say quickly is that it is unfortunate. I'm noticing that Tarkov isn't fun anymore. Like it's hard for me to get like the intrinsic value of me enjoying the game. It's like I'm like, it's like, oh, I need the like God, this game's not fun anymore. Let me only do a pistol run and, snowball challenge. You know what I mean? It's like you gotta gamify your own rewards. It's so weird like that. But yeah, it is kind of unfortunate. A lot of games are every game feels like it has a quest system or like a crafting system, like just something where it's just like, that tickling that little dopamine, like be your own, there's your reward. Okay. Moving on. One quick thing I did want to say. I did look up, so we talked about DLSS is coming and following patches. And you mentioned before how it's unfortunate that AMD users are sort of like left in the dust. I did see, I looked it up. Unity 2021.2b has AMD FSR, which is their version of DLSS. It has it built in. So, guys, just wait another 5 more years, and eventually we'll get to the Unity 2021.2b patch. Assuming that Nvidia didn't sign it, or rather BSG didn't sign an exclusive deal with like Nvidia. So let's see. Oh man, that's funny. There's hope. Copium. Just keep huffing. All right, so we need to wrap this up quickly because we're running out of time. Logical solutions banned. What? Drama alert.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely drama alert. Banned. When was he banned? Yesterday?
Yes, I think so.
Mm.
So where to start? So I'm just gonna quickly check his Twitter and see if he's posted any updates, but there's not a lot of information on the ban, and who was banned recently? HyperRat was banned not too recently, and that was like determined to be a false ban. Is that the case
Yes.
here? One could presume. However, in his
Mm.
initial tweets, he said, quote, just because I tweet about stuff and have a Discord/website where I shared data that is in the game, I get banned from the game. Pretty cool. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on this subject? Because I'm not really sure what's going on.
Yes, I think it's an interesting one. I think there's an obvious take, and then but like, you can never know for sure. I think like the obvious thing is that, and there's a couple of people who've like posted as well around this. Um, we all know BSG are kind of funny about their data. We know this at this
Hmm.
point. The wiki team have been told in the past not to put certain things on there. I did uh I did infer, you can infer from the posts that they have made that there is some kind, and from what Logical Solutions has actually posted too, because he was part of the wiki team as well at one point, and he infers too that they actually have some kind of special access, but they have to use it carefully.
Hmm.
I believe, and that I don't think they can post everything that they can see necessarily because of like I don't know. I actually don't know where the line is drawn, and maybe the wiki team do know.
Yeah.
And maybe that's been released at some point, but I don't know where the line's drawn. But a line is drawn somewhere. There are some things they'll allow on the wiki and some things that they won't. Then you have other creators like No Food, who, as you can imagine, is very in depth guys. Like again, he's part of the wiki team as a ballistics expert, but even still, separately to that, he's been looking at the ballistics and that kind of stuff, and round penetration and those kind of things forever in this game. And he posted on Logical's one of his Twitter posts anyway, saying, you've been warned previously about this, especially when you moved away from the wiki team.
Talking about one peg.
Um, well, and One Peg said the same thing. Now, I was actually surprised to see that One Peg basically said I was also warned by BSG myself not to put something. And so I'm not sure exactly what One Peg was doing, because I know he puts out like some detailed info, but like I wasn't aware that he was like doing anything that was kind of like I would consider data mining. So I don't know. Maybe the line is like slightly closer there. I'm not sure. But anyway, both of them said to him, you basically knew what you were doing. Everyone got warned. You carried on posting anyway, um, and he's been banned, right? And so that's kind of like the obvious take. Now, from the way that it looks, he has been well. This is where it gets slightly complicated because from the way that it looks, he's been banned via BattleEye, I believe. And that's how it looks because you receive
Right.
like a specific email,
Mm-hmm.
which on its own you would say, okay, well that's because of like cheats or something. Now, I don't think that that's necessary. I honestly don't really think that's the case, but yeah, I think this is one of the issues is that it then like it just puts everything into question because you're like, well, I really don't think that's true, but also how can you ever know? And so that's where it kind of becomes a bit more like complicated and a bit more like obfuscated and not necessarily as clear cut. I don't think that is like I really don't think that that's the answer here. I think, as No Food said in his thing to Logical on Twitter, where he basically was like, you've been warned about this. They shouldn't act like this, but this is how it is. You didn't play by the rules and you've been banned. It sucks, but yes, this is how you knew that this was potentially going to happen. I think that's probably the most likely outcome, um, and not anything else. But yeah, it's just an interesting one. It's tricky because like I don't know really what they're trying to gain like banning someone's account because it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with what he's doing, right? Like if he's not doing the data, like yeah, he might be breaking TOS or something, but like breaking TOS, like imagine if you're some like random guy who's just like interested in Tarkov, but you don't even own the game and you're like distributing in-game
Right.
info,
It's
like
like
then what's the deal, right? Because I think like he said on his thing, like yeah, they've deleted my account or whatever because they know it's me. I could just start another account. They don't know that account is like I guess they could with IPs or whatever, but whether they can be bothered, I don't know. Um, and I'll just use this other account or something, and I'll just never release the name, and they won't know that it's me running it, right? So there's that. It's like he said, well, I'm going to carry on releasing this information because I think it's important for the community. It's just like it's a really complicated one, and I think it all circles back like right to the fundamental and base issue here, which is like BSG's policy around the data in the game, um, and and why they're so protective over it and why they think it's a good idea to have it
yeah.
be this protected. And it comes back to the same thing of like, if we're doing a test, should you be given all the information? Or because we're doing a test, that's why the information shouldn't be given because that's what they're testing. They're not testing the player base's ability to, min max metaize everything and go to the precise best place for scav spawns, graphics cards, blah 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 blah. They're testing the information flow when the information isn't readily available. Like how many people actually go to the good spots? How many people figure it out? Does that information get out through YouTube, through Twitch, whatever? Like that could almost be more as interesting as other stuff. That's like being quite lenient, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I would say.
I think that's being quite lenient, but that is like the one argument that I would say is potentially valid. But I think that the problem is that like there's something about the kind of like hand me down, like, you tell your friend about the hidden stash that has XYZ kind of thing that they like as inherently as a concept. And anything that they see that threatens that, they will do things that probably shouldn't really be doing to try and retain, even though the concept itself is quite nebulous, very difficult to define, and also very hard to then punish people when they break it, right? It's just like, well, then what's okay on the wiki and what's not? If I make a
Right.
random YouTube video, like, am I going to get busted for
It
looking at like the RR speeds for different weapons? Like, is that
right.
okay or not? I don't know. It puts a lot of things into question then, and no one really knows what their policy is. This seems to be the first time that they've actually like properly lashed out about it, and I think in this case, Logical's pretty blatant. Banning his account is weird, as I said before, because is it to do with like his game time? Is he using his account to test? No, I don't know. Those two things are kind of separate. Like maybe he I don't know how else they punish him though. And this is the thing, like they don't want him doing the thing he's doing, so they punish him. The only way that they have, the only
Yeah,
lever they
that's
have
the
to
only
pull,
thing they
is to
can
ban the
do.
account because the only thing they can do is like, what can you do
Right.
against hackers? Like, not really anything. Like people breaking terms of service in software. It's like it's a difficult thing to like put through the courts, and you don't know where these people are, and it's not even worth
Yeah.
chasing people for that kind of stuff. It's like for damages or whatever. It just isn't worth it. So the only thing that they actually have is the ban hammer. I think it's the only tool that they have in their arsenal, so they're just trying to make an example of it. I don't know. That's my take. That's what I think would be it. I mean, there is like an outside chance, right? There's this very very small probability chance that there is some funny hacking thing going on, and they ended up being banned by Battle at like a really weirdly coincidental time. It's not impossible. I just think it's highly improbable.
Yeah, so man, a couple things I want to comment. There's so much to talk about. So in chat, in your chat, Arc Semester said that the EFT subreddit is censoring anything related to logical solutions ban, even if it doesn't break the subreddit rules, which assuming that's the case, that is very interesting, man. Like, dude, like what's the escalation from here? If anyone's following logical on Twitter, they're gonna get banned. They're like, I mean, they surely they can't do that. But like what's I don't know. I don't know. This is
Why would you
crazy.
not be able to discuss it even? Like, I don't. This is the thing I don't understand. Like, well, the EFT subreddit isn't even affiliated with BSG technically. Like, why would you not be able to discuss Logical's
Technically.
ban on there? I don't really see why that would even. I
I
mean,
don't
maybe they
know.
think it's just causing like more drama than it's worth. That like this guy's been banned and that's all anyone's going to talk about. And it's just going to like drive more threads. I'm not sure, but that seems like an odd decision.
This is what I think is that I don't know if it's a cultural thing or what, but there seems to be this sort of like hierarchy thing you got going on where it's like it even comes down to like their how they wanted their original vision was like there would be no, YouTube sharing information wikis. It was just like you had to go and figure out for yourself. And then those that had the knowledge, they could choose to share it or keep it to themselves. And it's like, well, if I have like the knowledge of like, all these things are like the best things and the most powerful, and this is like the power, then I'm just gonna hoard that to myself and like my select group of people. And it's kind of like the same thing is kind of happening because they're saying, no, you can't share this, but also these people can because we're cool with them. Like, I don't know. It's just like, and then there's talks like they want, I don't remember who said it actually. I think it might have been Voxy. And I kind of called him out for it because I just think it just sounds like it's just not something I would stand for, but it was just sort of like, guys, you don't need to be discussing or doing, I can't remember the exact tweet, but it was just like, you just need to trust that the Sherpas or whoever will pass the information to you. Like, don't go to any other resource, don't do your own research. Just believe us because, we're the source. And it's like, I don't know. I'm more open to like, open access, free everyone equal opportunity type of thing. Um, and that man, that's like just the great thing about YouTube and Tarkov. Like you could start on your path to becoming a top Tarkov player or whatever, and like there's just so much resources. But I don't know, and it's so odd because I feel like what Logical was doing. Let's just take him at his word for a second that he wasn't doing any data mining, he wasn't breaking any
Yeah.
2S. He was sharing information, and and like you said, um, there was things that they didn't want sharing. Like I think the Kappa change was one of those things, right? That was something that
Mhm.
like when they changed it to 72. And I guess the reasoning for that was because I don't know, this is injecture at this point, but it spoiled someone's fun of watching streamers rage that they didn't get their Kappa quests completed and their 24-hour stream or whatever. I don't know. I just don't see the value, man. Like it's like where's the harm? Now, I understand maybe you want to surprise someone of like cultists, okay, I can see that, that's like a pretty I get it. I get it. Um but something like I don't know, BP craft being changed, you know, I just feel like that could be in the patch notes. Like I don't think I don't think it's that hard to have logs and then have someone spend 5 minutes copy and pasting the logs. Like I don't know. I'm just like maybe I'm spoiled. Okay, because I've played Dota 2 for so long and just like in general kept up with Valve and like their company. And they're like I don't know. I'm a Valve fanboy, but they do this thing where they intentionally put leaks within their updates to their games. Like there would be like a source or a source 2 engine leak inside of Dota 2 patch that was like cosmetics, or it'd be like a Half-Life Alex leak inside a Dota 2 patch. Like it's crazy. I mean, check out Tyler and McVicker if you're interested in the Valve News Network. It's actually crazy. But I guess they sort of like adapted to the situation, was like, well, it's a never-ending battle against the data miners. So let's just leak what we want to leak. You know what I mean? Like let's just get ahead on the game. I don't know. I don't know. The whole thing really frustrates me, Giga, because I feel like it's a lose 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 lose. You know? I mean, it's
Yeah.
just like nobody wins, man. Nobody wins, and it's like what? I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, like Chad's saying, like, yeah, the data mining isn't allowed, so having someone else do it for you and only releasing the content doesn't make someone innocent. They should hold him responsible. It's like I get that. I get that. But at the same time, like, is banning someone's account the right move? Like, surely they should do whatever they well, I was gonna say do whatever they should do for like, breaches of TOS or something, but like I guess that is a ban. Um it's tricky. It's tricky. And again, they're saying like he did admit to having a macro for his stash, so they might have picked up on that. But I think that was ages ago, and there was like, I mean, he also did say that he hasn't used one for ages. He did at one point, but he stopped because someone got like false banned for it or potentially caught because of that, and so everyone got scared, and so he hasn't used it for a while. So I don't know. I just think, yeah, I think it's this issue of the way that they want information to be passed throughout the game. I don't know exactly how, and we see sometimes this symptomatic within the general game design of the game from time to time of,
Hmm.
well, what how exactly do they want that to look? I like sometimes we all love Nikita and we love the work that he does and we love the passion he has for the game and we love
Oh
the
yeah.
vision that he has. But sometimes I feel the vision is more feeling than it is necessarily like practical like action steps towards the end product. And so it's like, well, does this information flow does it feel right? Is this the way, well, this isn't really or like, something, an emergent behavior arises from the way that the game is designed. And they say, well, this doesn't feel right. And so then they try to fix it. But I don't like, how do they want that information flow to actually look? I don't really know. And so it's a tricky one because then, yeah, where's I think this is the thing again. It's like, where's the line? Where's the line
Right.
drawn? Like, we're allowed to see the bullet pens on the wiki. Someone like Veritas is allowed to release Battle Buddy that tells you the percentage chance to pen at every possible durability across all the different armors. That can be used to min max loadouts and to try to optimize against the cross section of armors that you might find in a raid.
Hmm.
But posting specific like scav spawn changes and like changes to loot percentage spawns is like not okay. It
Right.
seems I don't know what they want from this.
Yeah.
people are gonna data mine stuff. Like if they really don't want people to do it, then like yeah, just encrypt everything. People are gonna do it regardless. Like no matter how many
Yeah.
warnings you put out or whatever, someone will go and do it, and that somebody will release it to everyone, and then everyone will know, or everybody who's keeping up anyway. So you can't just put out warnings and say, well, and as we've seen, right, the only thing that they have, so they only have two choices. They either can ban people's accounts, but if they don't know who it is who's actually releasing the information, maybe it isn't someone as high profile as Logical Solutions, who has his game intrinsically tied to his character, which is tied to his Twitter, which is tied to his tweets and his Discord. If you have somebody, and as he said, he's not the one data mining. If I'm sure he probably isn't, and that there's a ton of other people who are doing it, but we don't know who any of these people are, right? And so that information could still be leaked out, and those people can't be banned. Well, then what? It's like, is this going to fix the issue? Not really. So it's you either control the information flow, as you said,
Hmm.
and get rid of the parts that you don't like. But you have to do it like systematically. You can't just say, well, here's the way that we feel that the information flow should work. It's just like, oh, it doesn't have the right feeling, people data mining the game. That's not what the game's supposed to be about, right? It's like, well, that's all well and good. You have to design. It's the same as in game. It's exactly the same, right? It's all about systems design. And the thing about systems design is that you design the system, and then the people and the players or the users will then do certain things, and then you have to change the system if you don't like the emergent behavior that comes out. This is actually no different, except the players in this case are people who are data mining. So the information is available, so people will go and find the information, and they will go and publish it. Right? If you don't want people to find certain piece of information, then you're probably going to have to encrypt it or hide it or something. Do
Hmm.
something. But trying to rely on like the goodwill of the community for people to have the same idea around the feeling of the information flow that you have is honestly like, I just think it's unrealistic. And but but the only other thing that I would say about it is that systems design in this generalistic sense is one of the very easiest things to criticize because it is so obvious when it goes wrong, and it is one of the single hardest things to actually do correctly to achieve the emergent behavior that you want, because things are really really complicated. And this is
Yeah.
the thing, like when you put a system in place and you see an outcome, it's very obvious whether that outcome is the desired one or not, really. Whereas being able to then but to be able to actually put the system right to make the outcome that you want, it's very hard. It's very very hard. So
Yeah.
that's the only thing that I would say. But I mean, on this specific topic, yeah, I don't know what they want out of the flow. I really don't. And yeah, they'll have to, if they don't want people data mining, they just have to encrypt some of this stuff. That's honestly the end of it for me.
Yeah. And I would say what I would like is just better communication from BSG. Because as you said, I don't know what they want. And I feel like there wouldn't be a space for logical solutions if BSG had more better, improved, detailed patch notes. I think of it like, if you want me, this is a beta game, right? And if you want me to test a product like a ball, and you hand it to me, say, "Hey, here, test this ball," and I test it, and I say, "Yeah, it works." But then you say, "Well, did it bounce?" And I say, "No." And it's like, "Oh, well, it was supposed to bounce. Why didn't you tell us?" I was like, "Well, you didn't tell me what it was supposed to do. You know what I mean? You didn't explain to me what the thing I was supposed to be testing. You just hit." Now, if you wanted to see my behavior of what I would do with the ball, then that's fine.
Yeah.
Right? You don't want to like influence that. So something like Scav Karma, I could kind of see a case for like, hey, we don't want to fully explain the system. We just want to see how people behave. Because if we just lay out all the rules, then people are just going to gamify it immediately and whatnot. But I don't know. I kind of like that stuff, but I understand. But something like just like the weapon jams, like just having the raw numbers, because then we had that Twitter feed of where it was just like, oh no, I had 100%. weapon jam. It's like, oh, I had 100% weapon and I've never had a jam. You know, it's just like all these random reports, all more confusion. And I just don't see a lot of value in that. And I don't know. It's, yeah, I
That's the
would,
thing. The only takeaway that I have for like the weapons jam example, people saying, "Oh, well, I had some at 100 and my gun jammed within 3 rounds and all this kind of stuff." Like when BSG is saying that they don't want information to flow correctly like that in like an efficient way, which is really what they're saying. They're saying like don't want the information to flow efficiently. They
mhm.
want people to find stuff out for themselves. They want to find it out ad hoc from their friends. They want small circles of people to be passing stuff. They want it to feel as if like you actually live in the Tarkov world, right? There's not
Yeah,
like a big
yeah,
bulletin board where data minus X/logical solutions pins a big notice up on one of the
right.
sky rises with a big searchlight or something and says, by the way, guys, this was changed, right? They want you to feel as if you're immersed in the Tarkov world, which I understand. But at the same time, we have Twitter and we have Reddit and we have all these other platforms, right? And when they're saying that they don't want people to find out this information, they are asking for the I had a jam within 3 rounds and it sucks. I had no jams at all. The system's fine, right? That's actually what they want, right? With the information,
Right.
with this thing that they're trying to do. Well, that's what it looks like they want with the thing that they're going for. You know, you won't remove people's frustration by hiding the information. You'll just make people confused and then frustrated, saying like, "Why does this work this way?" And they say, "Well, it doesn't. You just got unlucky." And that's like, "Well, how does anybody know?"
And then
Because
what's
it's impossible to test.
what does that lead to? There's a problem, someone sees a need, and then someone's gonna come in and fill that need, like, "Hey, my name's Logical Solutions. Here's actually what's going on." And it's
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
I just feel like we could just circumvent all of that, and, you know, it's like it's a win-win. It is a loss for BSG. It is a compromise, ultimately. It would be a compromise. I don't know. I guess we just see values differently. You know, I would like to reach out to Logical and maybe also like Tobias or what's the other guy's name? Oh, not Omid. I can't remember. He's like the PR guy for because Tobias is a community manager.
Dimitri? Is it
Yes,
Dimitri?
yes,
Yeah.
yes. It'd be interesting to see if we can get him
Well,
to
I
show.
don't know whether they'll even like Logical will talk for sure. The other guys, I'm not sure if they're going to talk about this. I really don't, because they're
Well,
not. Like, I don't think they're even replying to him. You mean
yeah,
just in general? You don't
just
mean
in
about
gen
this particular
just
issue?
in general, yeah, just in general, because yeah, more so about this topic of not necessarily logical, but just like their mindset and you know, just the lack of communication. I feel is there.
I would
So
actually love to know Nikita's stance on that, on this in particular, about the information
right,
flow. It's
yes,
like they they clearly don't want everything to get released.
yeah,
You know, they don't want people pouring through the code into its, nth degree detail.
right,
They obviously don't want that, but they also don't seem to mind like some info getting leaked. So I'd be intrigued to know kind of like where that line is drawn, like what they're trying to achieve with that and that kind of thing. I think that would actually be fascinating to find out like what they actually want and whether it's more feeling, because that's the thing that I feel. It's almost like people do in the real world, you know, they think, oh, I wish I had XYZ, but they don't think necessarily about the practical ramifications of like the thing that they're wondering about, you know. I don't know, it's like I don't really have a great example, but you know, you say, oh, oh that that job would be great, but then you don't necessarily see the pressures and the stress or whatever, or this person who's doing it has to do all this traveling or whatever it might
right,
be.
right.
And so like the idea of the thing is sometimes better than the actual practical, like what would it be like to actually do this thing, right? And I feel like sometimes BSG get into that kind of mode, and maybe that's partly driven by like how Nikita led the processes in some ways.
Hmm.
I think like when the podcast guys did their interview with him, I think people have speculated before about like, how is there like a team of people coming up with ideas and this kind of stuff. But we found out there that it is very much like Nikita comes up with all the ideas of everything, pretty much, and then that information gets like passed down to the team and they
Right.
build the stuff. It very much is like that. And so I do wonder, for all the good, I mean, they've built a fantastic product for now, but I still feel that sometimes there's more like feeling first, which is fine.
Yeah.
but you just need to implement it in a way that's like sensible. So I don't know. It's a very tricky one. I'm sure this is going to be a topic of much continued debate for a long time. It has been for a while, but this has just kind of put it into the spotlight with this very hardline
Yeah.
stance.
Yeah. We'll have to see as it develops because who knows? You know what I mean? Who knows? We'll have to wait till the facts come out, you know. All facts, no printer. Um, but we'll see. The funny thing that I noticed today when I was buying my EOD edition is on the Escape from Tarkov page, there's a tab that says wiki and it takes you to the Escape from Tarkov wiki. And I thought that was absolutely hilarious, just given the circumstances of everything.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I don't know.
it is funny. Because that's the thing, like the wiki is affiliated, it is the official wiki of the game. I
Right.
know it was blessed by BSG, and so there's that link in the background where the stuff that they want goes on there, and they play by the certain rules. So they probably know better than anybody else. Someone like No Food probably knows better than anyone. Um, or some of the
Yeah.
wiki admins as to like where that line is drawn. Whether they're even allowed to talk about the line, who knows?
Right.
Maybe that's
Right.
even its own thing. It's just like, well, no one else is supposed to know where the line is drawn. Who like the whole thing's obfuscated. Even the like the framework of the rules could be obfuscated. Dude, it's tricky. I don't think there's a real answer to it for now, just because of like the way that
Yeah.
the policy is. Um, I don't think there's a real answer to it. But look, I think this, if they want to like block people from spreading, huge amounts of really crucial, in-depth, really specific information, and have given warnings before, this is probably the most cut and dried case, which is why they're kind of making an example of him, I think, and then potentially it'll stop other super high profile people from setting out this kind of stuff. Because like even when like really important
Yeah.
things come out on Reddit by people who don't know about this stuff, like sometimes these things get shared by bigger creators, but often not. And then like it goes on Reddit and it gets like a couple thousand upvotes or something, and then it disappears again. But it's actually quite a small percentage of the player base that does see that. If you're not on Reddit every day or something
Right.
comes up on Twitter, like there's so many different myriad sources, and if you're just like a player, you wouldn't necessarily see that if you're not like looking at it all day every day. Um, so I don't know. Maybe they just don't want the bigger guys to be pushing this stuff to like massive, massive amounts of people. Maybe that's the point.
Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. Let's see. I have to be really careful what we throw in our content now. Otherwise, you're
Yeah,
next.
I don't think it's going to change really anything. Like the way that I see it is that like if the information is kind of like publicly available in the game and like testable in raid, then I'm pretty sure that's probably going to be okay. If you like go into a bunch of raids, there was some guy who's doing like I've seen his things pop up a couple of times actually on Reddit where he said I've gone and looted 1,000 toolboxes, I've looted 1,000 of this crate, I've looted a
Yeah, I
thousand,
have seen this.
and they're kind of interesting. But I think like if you can go and do that kind of stuff in raid, I think that's like fair enough.
Yeah.
Um, free logical ban the oi guy,
Not the Oi guy.
not the oi guy, not the oi guy.
He's so
But yeah, I think
sweet.
that's probably okay. If you can go into raid and do this stuff, like you're building gun builds and you're min-maxing stuff, but you've got the recoil and the ergo stats available. That stuff's fine. I think it's like anything where it's like you're digging into the code and you say, oh, impossible scavs. Oh, I can see something's changed in the code, or oh, I can see the health pools of these scavs in the code. I wonder whether it was the health pool thing. When they did that event and everyone was like, oh, the super scavs, and
Yeah.
I think it was logical. It was just like, yeah, they have 40 HP on the head and they have
Yeah.
175 on the thorax, and then like
I
detailed the
don't
whole thing
know.
out, so like
Could have been
took the mystery
that.
away. That could
We'll
have also been it
see.
too. But yeah, probably talked about this topic enough, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah, I
This
think we should wrap up. I don't want to be a dead horse. Like I said, I mean, I'll reach out to Logical and see what he says. I mean, see if he's up for it. And, maybe we could get some insight from his side of the story and maybe some others. Yeah, anything else, Kigo?
I think that's it, really. I think that's it. I mean, it's been been an exciting week. It's good,
Yeah.
but been enjoying stuff. Oh yeah, the only thing that I'd say before we finish is yeah, because my leveling like super super slowed down. Like I made a huge push at the beginning, and then like
Hmm.
the last month I basically like haven't changed level at all. I got to like level 37. You remember when I like came on? I was so excited because I like was just about to get the solar panels, and then I made a big push to level 37 and then got that and like run the solar panels because I was away for like a week or something. Like I've been
Yeah.
at level 37 like since then. I genuinely like hadn't changed it. And I was like, right, now I got a bit more time. Let's like crack through some of the quests or whatever. And like got to level 38, which is super important because that's like the level 4 skier thing. And now I can buy a 5501 for 360
Oh,
rubles
that's a
around. And
crazy.
like it's like such a huge power spike. It's
Yeah, it
it's
really
like insane.
is.
You could only buy 90, but basically every time you
Every
remember,
time you log in.
huddle off to your PC, boop, boop, 90 rounds, click, click, right, off. Okay, have some lunch. Oh, yeah, take a break, click, 90, 90, 90, 90, 90, 90, right. And it kind of starts to stack up. And having like 5501 just on tap from him is really, really good. And I've been enjoying that, definitely. I've been enjoying that.
I don't think
I
I've
was kind of
used
waiting for it.
5581 this wipe actually.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I've been sticking mostly to BP because it's just been in such circulation, you know. You kill one
Yeah, I mean,
guy,
everyone's using
oh,
BP.
he's
It's
got an AK or a mutant. Oh, there's so much BP I have to unload and put in my container, you know.
Yeah. I'm still like I have the ability to do the mutant now, but I don't know, I'm still kind of like because it's now like the done thing. I'm sort of like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just like it's putting me off a little bit. I'm like back onto like modding kind of, min-max M4s again.
Hmm.
Just because I kind of put it off a little bit. I've been like playing with all sorts of different guns this wipe, and so MDR is not really that much different, but like, P90 and like MP7 and like the
Yeah.
RFB and like some of those like, and then obviously the SVD for doing like Epsilon and stuff. So like to then come back to the M4 and just be like, oh, I can just like build whatever I like, it's just like it's so modular. It's such a nice gun to use in Tarkov, even just to make and build whatever. It's been good. So yeah, hitting that power spike for 5501, oh,
Huge power
it
spike.
feels great. It feels great.
That's Skier
I love
4?
it.
The Skier 4 or
It's
Skier
which
3?
tier 4.
Okay. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty good.
Level 38. So I'm closing in on max traders. Now that I'm back like playing a bit more, then
Hmm.
hopefully I can get to the 42 and start getting them ACPC barters because that's a
Yeah,
real
that's
deal.
oh boy, don't get me started on those.
It's a real deal.
All right. Yeah, wrapping
Cool.
up. Just want to quickly say thank you to our listeners. I was looking at some of our numbers and statistics, and I just realized that we got people from all different types of platforms listening from like the podcast section because it's just like the podcast platforms are just there's so many of them. Like we had a I didn't realize it, but we had like a page on Podbean and there was like some followers there and some comments. I was like, oh, I didn't know you were here. So it's
Yeah.
cool. This wouldn't be possible without the listeners, and it's still amazes me today that people listen and care to hear what at least I have to say. I mean, you got the fancy accent, I got the K Kona American accent, you know. So yeah, thank you to you guys.
Yeah, it is an awesome thing. It really is. So as Church said, thanks to everybody for listening in. It's an absolute pleasure to do it. Honestly, I really like, especially episodes like this. Like I was really, and this is kind of like why we end up running over because I was like really looking forward to for doing this one. I was like so much stuff that happened in the week and like
Yeah,
no one to
I
like
know.
really talk about it and like I'm kind of busy and stuff and I was just like, oh, I can't wait to get on like to chat to Church about all these things. Like
Tell me
I
about
was
it.
actually genuinely look forward to it. It's like super super cool. So yeah, thanks for listening. It really means a lot to me and yeah, just keep fighting the good fight.
All right, guys, we'll wrap it up. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week.
Catch out, everyone. Bye bye.